All right, welcome to the Redacted Podcast. I'm here with Trav and Tim. I'm John. Today we're going to be talking about a bit of a half-baked theory that I have. Um, so essentially,
Okay.
my theory is, and I stress this is sort of half-baked. This is just something I've been mulling over. Um, I was thinking about why does it seem like we are accelerating so quickly? Why does it seem so blatantly in your face, all of these things that they're trying to do to push Marxism and subversion and really just tearing apart democracy and freedoms? Um,
You're literally just giving me the stage here, but okay, yeah, continue on. I don't understand how this goes into your topic.
so my theory is the reason that they're doing this is because we're and bear with me, we're entering an age where you can no longer create a state of freedom. And my reasoning behind this is that technology and sort of weapons of war are sort of, and powers are sort of solidified right now. Because if you think back to before the founding of America, there was still like land to be discovered and there was still room for nations to pop up. And I think that aided a lot in the ability for America right now as it exists as really the only true, even though it's under attack, truly free state, free
Mhm.
country. It's because it was discovered and founded when things weren't as solidified as they are, where powers aren't as solidified as they are. Think about this. You try to start a free country now, what's going to happen to you, right? You're going to get assassinated. You're going to get killed. Um, Ruby Ridge, you're going to get raided by the FBI if you try to create it in the US. You know, if you try to go out into the ocean, you'll get embargoes put on you. You won't be able to do any trade. Um,
Mhm.
so my whole argument here is that they're rushing to take control because there's really no room to, um, like for example, if I'm arguing from the standpoint of like a globalist, we need to take America now because this could be our last chance to solidify our powers for when we enter an age where the sort of political powers and climate are no longer fluid and no longer change, where we get stuck.
Hmm.
This is something I've just been mulling over, so I wanted to hear you guys' thoughts on that.
So, with something along those lines, I feel like you would need evidence for what you're saying because I can see with what you're saying with the global takeover, with how they say you'll own nothing and be happy.
Mm.
And I do see evidence there. But where do you see specifically the malicious intent?
I think that, I mean, obviously they're trying to just, they want to get rid of the Constitution. Right there is your malicious intent. Like, just my
Do they
stance
want to get
personally,
rid of the
my
government too?
stance, like my stance personally is that evil is defined as anyone who wants to infringe on God-given rights.
Okay, but let me stop you right there because I do agree with you and I disagree with you at the same time. What I mean by that is with the Constitution, do you think that they are setting out to destroy the Constitution because it's the Constitution, or do you think that it poses their personal goals, which are pretty scummy?
I think that their whole mode of operation is needing to destroy what exists currently to basically build up their own government. So the latter,
And what's that government going to look like?
Marxist, it's going to be
I
communist.
can't really
Or
find anything wrong with what you just said. I still want like sources or evidence though, because while I do agree with what you're saying, I want you to try and convince the audience a bit.
fair enough. I mean, I can flash a few sources on the screen, but I kind of wanted to just talk about it like conceptually, not.
Okay, yeah, that's fine, but at least give some people some starting ground, some
Well, here's what
Hmm.
I
uh
see. So I'm operating under the assumption that people agree with me that we are currently in a sort of like color revolution where everything is being turned upside down and all of our history is being destroyed, like with the fact of statues being taken down. All of our sort of historical figures are being smeared. The flag, they want to get rid of the US flag and replace the US flag and call the US flag a hate
That
symbol.
aside, the U.S. flag thing
Mhm.
is pretty scummy. I
Mm-hmm.
saw
Also,
that. I was like, wow, that's messed up.
there's also the anthem too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, with the BLM national anthem or something. I'm like, yeah, I was never really interested in sports, and now I have a reason not to be interested. And to be clear, why I'm not interested is if you're not going to unite everyone for a sport, why bother having that sport at all? If it's going to be for one specific race, okay, that race can have it. Um, just exile them essentially.
Hmm.
To a degree, like don't let them take good stuff like food with sports. I'm like, yeah, I kind of want to defend it because I can understand it, but at the same time, I have such a disinterest in it that I can't find the wherewithal to defend it.
And the reason I hate sports generally, and besides the fact that it's boring as hell, is that if you're obsessing over big sweaty guys all day and you're talking about big sweaty guys at work, and you're like, oh my god, Wayne Gretzky is like he's a fucking beast. It's like, dude, either you want to fuck him or you want him to fuck your wife. But either way, I think you're a huge fag. Um,
Hmm.
What does this say
but
about
let's
people who like UFC though?
hmm you're watching
Is
guys
that
beat
really
the
sport?
shit out of each other. I don't know if that's
Yeah. So is that like
that's
what is it called? Snuff?
yeah. Yeah. It's snuff. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a good point. I mean, UFC, I don't watch or anything, but I would kind of like look at UFC as less like homoerotic than like American football.
There was a recent fight I want to touch up on because it shows that despite these guys probably get more concussions than people playing football, they know strategy, and it was recently a match, sort of recently, between Conor McGregor and someone who beat him. I don't remember his name, not because I don't remember, it's just everyone knows who crazy Conor McGregor is. But my point being is, he Conor lost the first round and he won the second round because he realized he was up against a grappling expert, a jiu-jitsu expert. So he just went with pure strikes, hit and run strikes, and never let himself get grappled, and it worked. The opponent was a bloody mess. It was honestly really interesting to watch from just purely the tactical point of view.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Well, yeah, so back to the theory though. I know Trav, like you specifically asked me what does the government that they're trying to replace the current one we have now would look like? To me, it would look like communism. I know
Hmm.
you have an interesting theory on what that would look like.
Right. Yeah, I think that would be more like a neo-feudalist government than a proper communist government, which wouldn't end up really looking very different because there's more of a vertical flow of resources in a neo-feudalist government, kind of
Becomes
like what ends up happening in like a USSR type communist government.
cyberpunk, complete with gender sliders.
Yeah.
And that's you're basically so where you see so my idea is that I think like powers that be and weapons of war have bottlenecked or
Mhm.
bottlenecking, but you see it as AI being the true threat, right?
Well, the way I see it is that AI, like the kind that's being employed by companies like Google and Facebook, basically eradicate the what I believe is now antiquated capitalist view of basically the companies that serve their customers, uh, that can compete to serve their customers best are the ones that end up on top. And the reason why I think that that's antiquated now is because there isn't really any proper competition anymore. The companies that get that are able to because the way that they train their AIs and things like that, it's sort of like a ongoing feedback loop, and basically whichever is the best company in that sphere, in the big tech sphere, ends up being the one that sort of just reinforces its own capability of serving the market. And that just, once they hit that state, they just kind of go parabolic, and pretty much all other competition becomes picking up the scraps in a way. So like kind of like probably the most tangible example of that right now is Google. I remember going when I was in college studying computer science. We went through a couple of slides about like modern tech companies and like what their market shares are. Google had like 90 or 95% of the market, and this was like several years ago too. I don't know what it's like now, but like the next closest ones were like, Yahoo and Bing and stuff like that, but they were in like single digits in market share. It was crazy. And that's why I sort of think that it's sort of coming to a point where it's almost like we're entering into a state where we're going to be it's almost like there's a new form of government that's bubbling up underneath the right under the noses of the ones that already exist, and it's going to be way more powerful than current governments are. I mean, you can see how even they haven't even reached a plateau of how influential they're going to be, and they already kicked Donald Trump off of social media, who was at the time one of the most powerful men in the world. You couldn't do that like 300 years ago when we still had empires and feudal lords and things like that. You couldn't shut those guys that were at the top up like that,
Yeah, big tech and government, I think, is
No,
getting
no,
more and more
I would
intertwined.
disagree there.
Would you?
They did, Trev. Julius Caesar was killed.
Yeah, he was killed by a fellow or another by several other politicians. I mean, I'm saying that like with so I mean, obviously anyone who's a human can get like killed or something like that. I'm not saying something like that, but what I'm saying is that there weren't any ways that apart from killing someone, that another entity during that time period, especially not someone who wasn't already an influential like senator or something like that, they couldn't just get Caesar to like not be able to reach his um his subjects, I guess is what they would have been called back then.
No,
If he wanted to address them, there wasn't any way that they could block that.
you got to realize something, Trev. Killing was acceptable back then. It's not acceptable now. They can't kill Trump. They could kill
Mhm.
Caesar. And
Yeah, and don't you think that
here's
that's
why
a powerful thing that they can do
Caesar
that?
could disseminate as much information as he wanted, but if people decided, you know what, we don't care, and just killed his messengers outright, kind of like what the news media is doing,
Mhm.
um, then there is essentially no point to him being a ruler. He'll essentially fall out of popularity. It's all about the manipulation, and the only thing that's really changed now is it's more efficient and faster to be able to kill someone, not physically but more in a psychological way in the mind of the population, because you have the news, the mainstream media now. That didn't exist back then. That exists now.
Right. Mhm.
It's its own almost atmosphere, I want to say. And the reason why I say that is it exists in its own digital space. You can kind of like there exist physical buildings purely for these news networks. And
Right.
if you combine them all together, I would say you would even have probably a city or two. Maybe even a small town. Who knows? But my point being is it's its own apparatus, and it's a different apparatus from what was acceptable back then. Back then, killing was acceptable, so at the end of the day, it was might makes right. But now, yeah, Donald Trump can't exactly arrest news media for being fake liars, can he?
No.
And yes, I realize that has to do with free speech and the fact that good people believe in free speech, but still, at this point, I mean, it just really peeves me when people hate him so much over stuff that CNN says. And remember, CNN. What was that they reversed the years for crime statistic?
Uh,
Everyone to eat it up like, oh yeah, everything is more peaceful now.
are you talking about that thing that I posted on Facebook earlier?
Yes,
Right. Should I go ahead and put that in the sources?
I thought I
Yeah, I
did.
want to see that.
I am
Yeah,
surprised
let's
I
go ahead and do that.
yeah.
Yeah, that is a scary thought that there's some sort of like government bubbling up out of big tech. I mean, they're definitely intertwined more and more. I mean, it's coming out that like, I mean, think about most recently, Jen Psaki, right, said that they themselves are flagging stuff on Twitter for them to take
In
down.
Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
It was sounding like they might even start trying to flag things on SMS too, but I'm not sure.
Biden was trying to basically monitor it for COVID misinformation, which is, I mean, these are
Hmm.
all just like code words for, it's just the new fake news. Fake news pretty much just meant anything that was um, like anti-establishment or just was outside, anything alternative or outside of the
Hmm.
establishment narrative. I think COVID misinformation,
Hmm.
same thing, just different name for it.
Yeah, that's exactly right, I think. Um, but yeah, and that's why I'm calling it sort of like this sort of neo-feudalism, because it's not really like I'm talking about a government bubbling up, but it's not really one government, is it? It's multiple entities basically, and they're sort of existing in parallel, and they're sort of forming their own lines of power. It is a vertical power, right? It's going up through those companies, and sort of funneling up to the CEOs and the executives of those companies.
I was gonna ask you, um, what does it look like for AI supremacy? Say Google hits that parabolic point that you mentioned. Like, what does that look like?
What that's going to look like is there's no meaningful competition in the areas where these companies basically stake their um, where they establish their industry, which can be really wide reaching, right? So like you look at Facebook, there's and admittedly Facebook is getting outclassed in some of these areas, but they basically have their own apart from just social media stuff, they have their own texting app, they have their own sort of phone thing that they have going on here. They have the marketplace, which is basically just Craigslist. They have a job searching module somewhere. That's one thing that might be a little
Hold
bit of a
on.
hole in my theory,
I
because
need to say something here. If Craigslist, Facebook, Marketplace is the analogy you're going for, what about Facebook dating? Is that also Craigslist or something worse?
I'm not familiar with that.
I'm not either, but I see it right there in the options.
Oh damn! I
Wait,
didn't even
really,
see that.
really?
Yeah, it's
Let me
a
see.
thing. It's a thing.
Where is that?
Okay, so
But
if you
yeah,
open up your phone and go on the app and then go to the stripes, you'll see Facebook dating. It's right above gaming.
fantastic. But anyway, to continue with what I was saying, like, so there's some things that like Facebook doesn't really get as well as its competitors, like its job board. It's real clearly outclassed by LinkedIn for now. Um, but where I was going with that, like where I think it might go with it going parabolic, is that these companies are going to be able to get really wide-reaching industries and become basically dominate most, if not all, of those markets eventually. So I could even like see at some point where you have to go through them to be able to like um do a lot of even just your everyday activities, right? You can like um I could see eventually that all digital purchases are going through them and things like that, right? So basically what's going to come down to after that, like maybe even like
Oh,
being having to pay rent or something like that through
to quote Sam Hyde,
these websites.
Facebook as your birth certificate.
That could I'm
I don't, I don't
that
think
would be
so.
interesting.
I don't think so. You're saying all these things, but there's one. one element that I think Facebook is struggling with, which is the fact that it's
Well, can I
Facebook.
get done with my thesis really quick?
Sure, go ahead.
So basically, what I think that looks like at the pinnacle is these companies are basically going to be so powerful that they're going to have the power at their fingertips to essentially shut people out of the market at the push of a button, basically, or even just automate the process of pushing people out of society just by flipping a bit on in a database, basically. And then what are you going to do then? You're going to be living on in a cabin in the woods eating snails or something. And
Yum.
if you even have a cabin, if that would even be possible at that rate.
To build it, maybe. Then the government comes and arrests you for cutting down trees illegally.
Yes,
But
sir. They go Ruby Ridge.
yeah, but I mean that's happening now, right? We talked about this before with like Visa credit and like so you got like these banks and stuff where it's like, oh, you're a proud boy. Well,
Mm-hmm.
sorry, you can't open a bank account. Sorry, you can't use PayPal. Sorry, you
Or
can't use Visa. You can't use Visa.
Mm-hmm.
Uber, PayPal, yeah.
The ostracization, it's a very feminine punishment, but it is
Mm-hmm.
powerful.
Yeah, and I feel like something that needs to be said there really quick though. People will start saying that it's going to be extremists and things like that, and I think that really, when it starts getting that bad, it's not even going to just be extremists anymore. It's going to just
Oh, of
be
course.
an authoritarian sort of like just anybody that they don't like, right?
To modify the old joke, like what's the difference between an extremist and a moderate? I mean, it's 6 to 12 months. I
Mm,
mean, they're saying extremist, they say white supremacist, they say Nazi, but what do they actually mean? What do they call anyone who's slightly right of censor as center? You know, anyone slightly right of their of being a fucking commie, yeah, as a
yeah.
white supremacist Nazi.
Well, I remember uh, what Nancy Pelosi calling Wolf Blitzer a Trump apologist because he was challenging her on some of this bullshit she was saying about the stimulus checks, and of course, on a more broader scale than that, even though that was pretty blatant, people call Ben Shapiro a Nazi all the time, even though he has the most vanilla missionary position fucking conservative views that you're ever going to run across.
Yeah. Yep. And they would draw Hitler mustaches on his posters on campuses. Very
Mm-hmm.
tolerant. Very tolerant. That's nice.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about this before, where they will call the horrible things they'll call conservative blacks. I mean,
Mm-hmm. They'll call it the black conservatives every racial slur in the book.
hmm like what's
They
going on in
love
your head that you're thinking, oh, I'm this warrior of social justice. Oh, there's a black conservative. Just throw the N word out.
Mm-hmm.
Call him an
Yeah,
ugly
I've seen that
pun.
happen.
It's like
Mm-hmm.
it's like God damn. And you actually do you actually think you're on the right side of history? Right? Do you actually think that you're the good guy here? You're bashing the fash.
Mm-hmm.
I saw this when they did that interview for Berkeley, and they asked people if voter ID was racist. Oh my God, you got the best answers, I swear.
The
They're
bigotry.
like,
That's the bigotry of low expectations, right?
Mm-hmm.
yes, absolutely. My God, they're like, they can't be expected to get their license from the DMV. I'm like, what do they think these people are?
Ye-
Honestly, it's a city. It's just like the place you live. It's not anywhere exotic. Like, how enclosed in a bubble do you need to be to think that these people are alien just because they're a different skin color? Like, at the end of the day, they're still human. They still need to eat, sleep, breathe, etc., etc. They're just like you. You don't need to think that there's some kind of exotic animal that moves through the concrete instead of through the cars.
It's they treat
Mm-hmm.
them like children. Ultimately, they just treat them like they need to be babysat.
Sometimes worse. Well, sometimes worse, because honestly, at the end of the day, I think all these regressives see is slaves. and tell me I'm wrong because they see slavery and that's all they see.
Well, it's all people that they basically just want the government to coddle people, right? They don't really want that's why I was like talking to John before about how like regress like the cities are all basically blue because when you live in the city you basically have the the city itself is basically providing all these amenities and you don't really have to like you don't really have any of the responsibilities that like a suburban property owner has. You're basically just being taken care of the whole time.
That's true. I partially think that, but I also partially believe that it has to do with
Actually, sorry, I have to amend that a little bit. That is if you're actually living in like the typical like yuppie parts of the cities, like the inner cities can be really brutal. So but that's a different story.
Hmm. Yeah,
yes,
they
you're
wouldn't
talking
go in
about
those
are you
areas.
talking about suburbia
Mhm.
Like they
What?
or
what is
deeper?
it, Detroit and shit? They're always like Detroit's not a shithole, and they'll show you like
Sure.
the really nice parts of it. And then you
Mhm.
go a block or two in the wrong direction, and it's like fucking blown the shit out, and there's people on the corners.
So let me
Mhm.
ask you, John, what you want for Detroit? Do you want
Nuke.
a place that's basically like there's good stuff, but the worst stuff that you see is like a place with lots of litter, is essentially what you're saying. Like you don't see bombed out abandoned houses.
Yeah, you do in Detroit.
No, what I'm saying is your dream Detroit
Oh,
is where you don't
my dream Detroit is
where
a
it's not by
free
Democrats.
enterprise capitalistic utopian society where every person has agency.
Well, I agree that that would be pretty nice, but don't go calling it utopia because you're just gonna end up thinking like a leftist.
Yeah, you're right. I mean the my version of utopia is just everyone being able to do whatever they want.
We kind of already have that in a way. In a way,
No.
um,
No, no, no.
that's why I keep going back to the whole thing about Buddha because Buddhism essentially teaches that, but people take it too far. Because when people think, "Oh, I can do whatever I want," they take it to the freaking extremes and go,
No, no, no.
"Oh, killing is okay,"
This is
and
this is what I think the Constitution was supposed to be. It's supposed
okay,
to protect individual rights within
yeah.
the document. So there's this sort of like if it should have been like this from the very beginning, and it should still be like this, where
Mhm.
you're in the U.S. and you are free as long as you agree to the precepts of the Constitution without
Oh, yes,
exception.
absolutely. Exactly.
So you can have the opinion that people shouldn't have freedoms, and you can say that in the U.S., but it should be locked in solid that that will never happen in the U.S. That the freedoms will always be protected in stone, and that's I think that's the was the purpose of the document, and of course they're trying to erode at it at every chance they get.
No, right now the Constitution is like everyone is saying, it's Swiss cheese.
Yeah,
Mm.
they're shooting holes in it.
Finely aged Swiss.
That's
They plan
sad.
to use it for Parmesan soon, actually.
I think one of the biggest mistakes in writing the Constitution was because I heard that they wanted to have it be life, liberty, property, and the
Yeah.
pursuit of happiness, but they didn't want to give slave owners ammo.
Mhm.
I think they should have added that anyway.
So can you elaborate on that?
No, I disagree.
Okay,
And I have an argument as to why.
lay it on me.
Define property.
No, here's the thing. Okay, you can argue for human rights and property at the same time. That's the thing. So you're arguing from the point of view of the South, where they could be like, "Well, this this slave is my property, so property cannot be infringed." And it's like, no, sorry. In the document, it's we have stipulations on human rights. Everyone is equal under the law.
Mhm.
You can have both. I understand why you wouldn't want to give them ammo, but it's like it's a very weak ammo. I mean, come on.
John,
Mm.
Define woman.
Why? I don't trust
Do
you.
you see where I'm going, or no? Do I need to explain it to you?
No, I think where you're going is the how these fags are being, where they want to poke holes in it. Yeah, you can poke holes all day, but sorry, you have to exist within the confines of this document. You
Hmm.
shouldn't have so much freedom that you're able to destroy the Constitution, right? This is where the idea of freedom can be bad, actually. Like a direct democracy, 100% democracy, bad ideas. You don't want mob rule. That's why we have a federation.
What
Well,
I'm
I
saying
think
here,
that.
John, is it's up to interpretation. That's why it's
Nah,
Swiss cheese. The reason why everyone is saying that right now is because it's being broken.
I know this. I know.
uh,
I know the whole living document argument. It's fucking bullshit. I think it should
that's
be
what they
read.
say. Founding fathers saw that and decided to go, no, because for every good law, it can be used in a bad way.
Mm,
What is that old expression? The path to hell is paved with good
good
intentions.
intentions. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
What were you talking to me about in California about how they're going to give UBI
Um,
to pregnant and foster care
the
children?
UBI. Yep, yep.
That's very good intentionally, but
Good
how that works
intentions.
out with the state, we'll have to see.
I mean, where are they getting that money? I'm pretty sure they're bleeding. The, the California doesn't produce shit. Okay, they don't
They
produce anything.
produce food.
They produce oranges. Okay, they don't. They produce food? To my knowledge, they produce barely anything. And you could argue, well, they have the movie industry and music and all this stuff. Nah, those people are dodging taxes like crazy. Are you kidding me? Every single star has a residence in fucking Delaware. I bet you. Um,
Hmm.
these fuckers. So where are they getting all the money? Federal money, which means everyone and all the other states, everyone in every single other state is being forced to give money to. That's where they're getting this UBI from. It's
Mhm.
Absolutely.
stolen money.
From what I've heard, I'm not sure
I
if
think
it's
we'd still
true. Is
need
that like
that. I would
California
still need
gives
evidence for
money
stolen.
to other states at a pretty high
You
rate?
you were both talking over each other, so hold up. Trav, you go first.
I was saying that what I've heard, I'm not sure if this is true. It's just sort of something that you're just reminding me of it because I've heard it offhand a few times. What I've heard is that California gives money to other states pretty frequently, like
Mm,
a lot of it.
I have to look into that. I'm thinking nah.
Hmm.
I'm thinking no. I don't see
I
how that
said
could be true because you realize their survival is reliant on getting water from other states, right?
Mm, yeah, that's
it's a
true.
no
They
for that, actually.
import tons of water.
They do, but it's usually from within the state, and it's usually from actually their produce. Like, there's a story from the Tim Pool guy, where they took a bunch of water from some farmers so that they could water grass for a golf course or something, a
Mm.
country club maybe. But as I was saying before, I would need proof for what you're saying. I would need proof that they're stealing if you're gonna make those accusations,
Okay,
John. Now, if you're saying
taxation
that
is
they're
theft. That's my argument, and I'm not going to give you proof because that's just a fact.
okay, fair. That's fair. If
That's
you're
that's
gonna
a
use that,
principle. That's a principle. You can't provide proof for that.
no, that's why I'm agreeing with you there. That's why I'm like, okay, that's fair. That's a principle I will agree and die with you on the hill on.
Yeah, but I see what you mean. Proof that they're parasitic.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
If we were to take us back a little bit to
Oh wait, wait,
like what
wait.
we were
One
talking
thing,
about.
one thing before you go, Trav. One little piece of proof I can give you: the fact that California was trying to pass a law that they could collect taxes on people who move out of the state for up to like 5 years.
Mm,
Boom. That is not a state that gives money out. That's a state that's bleeding and is trying at any way they can to steal money from people.
yeah,
All
that's a
right.
good point.
Go ahead, Trev.
The country, America does that too. If you move out of the United States, you still have to pay American income taxes unless you bring out your citizenship.
Mm-hmm. I think it's the only country that does that, to my knowledge.
To my knowledge, yeah, I'm not 100% on that though. Um,
Like I'm
I mean,
99% sure, and if I'm wrong, it's probably like one or two other countries, but I'm like 99% sure it's the only country that does that.
wouldn't surprise me.
And some states will do that too. So, for example, I moved to, I don't know, I probably shouldn't, fuck, I don't want to dox myself. I moved from I moved from a certain state to a certain country, and of course I got to pay federal taxes on top of what I make here. But
hmm
because that certain state requires you to pay state taxes outside, even if you're outside of this in another country, I have to pay state taxes on top of that. So states
Ooh.
that don't do that are a state that doesn't do that is like Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Florida doesn't do that. That's why when my parents did the same move, they went to they went to Florida, lived there for 6 months before moving here,
Nice.
just to get
So,
residency.
this, so wait, so this other state that you're referring to that I know what you're talking about, but no one else does. They do the same thing where you still have to keep paying income taxes after you move out.
Yep.
Uh,
If you're a resident of that state, you have to pay state tax.
that's so fucked.
Yeah,
And
that's messed up.
wouldn't you guess it? It's a blue state. Oh, wouldn't
Oh
you guess
yeah.
it? Because
Mm-hmm.
they're parasitic. They don't actually produce anything. They need to consume to survive.
Mm-hmm.
That's why a
They
peaceful
are the living
divorce.
embodiment of the HR sector of
Yeah,
company.
a peaceful divorce would be basically a peaceful rape because those states would fucking fall apart.
I
Mm-hmm.
say go for what is it called? Not self-exile, but secession. Let's do it. Let them burn, let them rot.
Yeah, arm up. But in Minecraft, what were you gonna segue into something, Trev? Back to our original something.
um,
Socialism, Marxism.
I think we've gone too far off of that topic to really be relevant. So I think I'll pass.
I have something to say about Marxism. Has to do with Cuba.
Oh shit.
hmm
What's
So if
up with
anyone hasn't
Cuba?
heard, yes, Cuba has been going through some riots. A lot of places have been going through riots, actually. Africa has recently gone through a riot as well.
Mm-hmm.
But through most, I would say, of the country, whereas with, yeah, and I would say it has to do with both of these situations. In Africa, I know that there's a very, very prevalent slave and pirate population, and I mean that literally. Like, you can go on Joe Rogan and see his interviews. There are people that are kidnapped and held ransom,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll be honest, I don't remember how that particular podcast goes, but people can go watch it. But in Cuba, it's just the socialist regime. People are tired. This happened a few years ago where there was a rival to Maduro. I don't remember what happened to him. I wonder if he's okay. I haven't really kept track on him. And honestly, the only thing you can really do is really pray for Cuba because at this point, or at least wish them good luck because, or at least support them in the fact that
Like a sarcastic good luck.
no, no, God, that's exactly what Joe Biden or what regressives do. Because these people are actually suffering
No,
here now
regressives are
today.
screeching that the U.S. is the reason why they're failing because otherwise, without the
Mm-hmm.
U.S., it would be a socialist utopia. Right,
Exactly.
Yeah.
right.
This is how
Well,
socialism works without capitalist economies. Socialist economies literally, as John said, parasitically feed off of capitalist economies, and that's because, like John said, they don't produce anything.
well,
It's
that's true of
leisure
Cuba
of
too.
life
Hey
at its
Tim, that's true of Cuba too. They benefit off of capitalist economies too. It's the Cuba gets imports and exports from other capitalist countries like Brazil using USD while their people are starving using their shitty currency. I don't remember which currency they use, but it's
Don't they
pretty much
use
the same
they
thing.
use WoW currency, don't they?
I think. s-
I think
I
that
think I
well,
heard
I'm
it's a
pretty
something about
country of
that.
sure.
gold farmers.
Wasn't that Venezuela?
Yeah. Oh no, it's not. Venezuela's like money was worth less than WoW currency. I'm sure Cuba's money is worth less than WoW currency too.
Hmm.
I'm
Oh, for
pretty
sure.
sure Cuba's money would have been worth more in America as toilet paper. And I know that sounds really insulting, but I say that
Uh,
with COVID and with the whole
here's
shortage.
here.
Because
This I could be
look,
getting this wrong. I could be getting this wrong. It might actually be. It might be Venezuela now I'm thinking about it. But I want to
sure.
Cuba or Venezuela, their money is so worthless that their people are making a living off of selling their dollar bills online as souvenirs.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm not surprised. Like I
Yeah, that
said,
wouldn't
it's
surprise me at all.
when you sell off your money in bucket loads because that's how worthless it is, it really shows.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just a fact. There's no going, oh, that's offensive or whatever. That's just a fact. When you treat something as worthless, it becomes worthless.
Well,
I
how
hear
how
so
does
many
how does money
immigrants.
become worthless, right? You print tons of it, or your government
Yes,
can't back the worth of the currency.
essentially
Hmm.
yes. But I remember what's his name? He's a philosophical talker. He talked with someone who was really Marxist, I would say, but the Marxist guy had a book company, a publishing company, some kind of book company, and I'm wondering how he did that despite having such Marxist views. And one of his insane questions it was that why don't we just set the price for essentially a mineral, a magical mineral, say gold?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we just set the price for that? And he just couldn't get it through his thick head that there is limited number of pieces of mineral, essentially, or gold.
Hmm.
So he just didn't understand the value that comes with scarcity.
They they either choose to don't understand or they fail to understand. Both are terrifying ideas. And I tend to go to the latter because if you have a book company and especially a successful one, that must mean that you know how to work the market, and that must mean that you're manipulating people in order to grab yourself a slice of the socialist pie, as we'll call it.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking about this. Do you think it's a true statement to say that every single communist in the U.S. would be dead without capitalism?
And I
Yeah,
remember the guy who,
I saw a video today with some fucking communist dude was getting asked questions by some journalists, and he looked like he had like fucking a triple D bra size.
yeah,
I just think that like someone who's that fucking fat can't like meaningfully engaging any kind of productive labor that would be required in
no,
a commune.
no, I would disagree. There was one, I think maybe it was by Stefan Molyneux. That was the guy I was talking about. But
Mhm.
a guy he interviewed. But there's this guy who was interviewed, and he was some kind of radio host, and he was really fat. He even admitted it. He was like, "Yeah, I eat these fucking pizzas every day, man." And he even admitted it's not a skill. He was like, "It's just being lazy. It's just eating. It's something anyone can do."
Mhm.
And he could engage in a meaningful conversation because despite the fact that he was fat, he wasn't suffering because of it because he accepted the fact. He was like, "Yeah, I'm fat, but at the very least, he gets to enjoy pizza." And he makes that trade willingly, and that's why he doesn't suffer. Everyone else gets mad because they know that they're fat, but they don't want to be called fat.
Hmm.
Here you go, Trav. Here's a stone toss for you. That's exactly what you're saying.
Hmm. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and
With the McDonald's in the background.
That's always the best.
It's sort of fucked to go after people's appearance, but communists tend to have a certain.
That's always what regressives or communists do because they tend to focus on the physical. I said this before because I've encountered people on social media. They're just pure that. They're just pure judge on physical appearance. And they rag on me for not being able to read people just on that. And I'm just stupefied. I'm not even sure if that's a word, but that's just how
Stupefied.
dumbfounded I
I think that's a
am.
Harry Potter spell, isn't it?
Don't
Stupefied.
tell. Oh God, that's cringe. But I'm more dumbfounded about the fact that they don't understand that there's more to people than just the surface. Like, are they just lazy or do they just not care?
Hmm. It's uh to quote Atlas Shrugged, it's a moratorium on
Okay,
brains.
so
Hmm.
it was Stefan Molyneux debating Zero Books, Ben Burgess, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, you can't find his debate on YouTube anymore, unfortunately, despite how strong I believe Stefan Molyneux is. He made really good debates, and that's why I feel like they had to get rid of him because they couldn't allow him to be there anymore. He was a threat that they could not ignore.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's
He's
like
still up on Freedom Domain, which is nice, and I really recommend everyone to take a look at his content.
yeah. Who was that? Steve Burgess.
No, Stefan Molyneux.
Molyneux. Who's
Yeah, the
Burgess?
other guy is Marxist.
Oh,
As well. So, I mean, you can listen to him.
Stefan
I encourage
Stefan
people to listen to him.
Molyneux. Like, did he get whacked? Did he get whacked? His
Very
channel
much.
his channel got taken down. Was that a while ago?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
when
I
somebody's
recommend.
too good, when somebody's too good at arguing, they usually get taken away.
Hmm.
That's why I'm so mad that I didn't get any messages that I was a an exile on social media. I was so upset.
Yeah, once you
I
get
know you're not supposed to get those messages, but I kind of half expected people would send me messages about me being an extremist and be like, "Oh, Facebook cares."
yeah, if you get banned, it's an affirmation that you are probably correct and you really hit a nerve.
The
Hmm.
reason why I say this and the reason why it pisses me off so much, because I need to say this, I am basing off of values that I remember as a kid. They weren't racist values, they weren't sexist values. They were values on treating other people as human beings. That's what liberals always believed in, and that's what leftards and regressives try to believe them, but they can't because deep down inside, they suffer or they're weak in such a way that they don't seem human anymore. And that's why they focus on inhuman surface level crap. I would like to say that also weak people need to stick together, and that works in a lot of ways. And I would say that a lot of weak people who don't have any personalities need to stick together in order to make one personality. And that's what regressives are.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that 100%. That is succinct.
Mm.
All right, well, we should wrap up, but I think this has been productive.
Yes.
All
We
right.
didn't get to talk about the Arizona audit extremely.
Oh shit. Dude, you just got us banned. You just got us banned. Why would you bring that up? What?
Uh,
74,000 mail-in ballots that were never sent out but still registered in the system? What? What?
yeah, please show
It's
these
fake
sources within
news. Fake news. All right, man. All right, this has been the Redacted Podcast. Peace.
Peace.
later.